Welcome to Figure Eight, where we feature inspiring stories of women entrepreneurs who have grown their businesses to 7 and 8 figures revenue. If you're in the mix of growing a bigger business, these stories are for you. Join us as we explore where the tough spots are, how to overcome them, and how to prepare yourself for the next portion of the climb. I'm your host, Julie Ellis. I'm an author, entrepreneur, and a growth and leadership coach who co-founded, grew, and exited an 8-figure business. This led me to exploring why some women achieve great things. And that led to my book, Big Gorgeous Goals. Let's explore the systems, processes, and people that help us grow our businesses to new heights. If you're interested in growing your business, this podcast will help. Now, let's get going. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Figure Eight. Today, I am speaking with Shari Cedar. She is the CEO and co-owner of AK Building Services. And Shari has had an eclectic career path starting in TV and TV production. And now she is in a new chapter as the CEO and co-owner of AK Building Services, which is an industry-leading family-owned and operated commercial janitorial services provider. And Shari owns that in Florida with her husband, Mark. She is incredibly focused on leadership and growing the organization for the team she works with. She represents the company in the industry, and she is a member of the Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce, so she's active in her own community. She is also a working mom and hopes to demonstrate, how you can build big things in your life and let your kids see you thrive. So welcome, Shari.
Thank you. It is great to be here. I'm honored to be a guest, and yeah, thank you. Looking forward to today.
It's so good to have you. Yeah, I'm so looking forward to our conversation because I think, I've had my own eclectic career path, and I'm always fascinated by how people end up places because certainly when you read your bio and look at, TV host, TV production, and when I say TV production, I mean household name stuff. And that all feels so glamorous and like a job that many of us might wish
Uh,
for.
you know, first of all, I will say, um, never say never, right? Like there, you never say never because you just never know where your life is going to take you. And I think the fun of everything is really that journey. And, I have always, I'll call it monkey barred my way through life, for lack of a better term. But yeah, I went from like a really cool, amazing industry, sexy industry, I should say, to, yeah, running janitorial services. And that's a big swing of the pendulum.
It sure is. It sure is. And I know when we chatted before, you talked about having been a producer on one of the Oprah's Favorite Things productions. And of course, that's sort of near and dear to my heart as someone who tried to get their product on that list many times. And so, you just think of things like that as like, I can just so relate to the time you were doing that and the time I was trying to get on that list. It was kind of everything.
Oh yeah. If you look at career highlights, I mean, well, there's a few, right? I mean, I've been really blessed. I've had an incredible career, but yes, working on Oprah's Favorite Things. I did one of her favorite things episodes was truly a career highlight for me. It almost like a bucket list item. And I think when you do productions of that, we'll call it high caliber with expectation, the bar is so high. You cannot mess up, the pressure's really on. So it's very cool. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, you did it." I could just tell you firsthand when I did that production, I have never been so scared shitless in my life. I'm sorry, Jamie will say, "You can't say an S word on a podcast," but, there's a lot of high stakes with it, but it really set me up for my future in many ways because if you can pull off a favorite things and not cry or or
or while
or lose your
crying, as the
job
case
over
may
it, but,
be.
if you believe and people said, "Good job, we'd like to work with you again," you can pretty much do anything in life, and that ripples out to almost anything you do.
Mhm. Well, it is so interesting, really, because I mean, as an industry, media and journalism has changed so much through, our lifetime, and is continuing to evolve. And that pressure cooker of expectation, it's a lot.
Oh, yeah, and I think when I started out in television and I was single, I was driven, you say jump, I say how high. I mean, I worked all the time and I thrived on that pressure, and that was a great thing. That work ethic is key to success in anything you do, and some would argue it's lacking in the workplace today. However, that's another story. But yeah, but I think you can only keep up that pace and that pressure for so long because we all are human. And while I absolutely love journalism, I mean, I love sitting here in this podcast. I love, journalism and creating and storytelling is such an incredible thing. But the world of TV production for me, looking back at it now, had a shelf life. I didn't realize it at the time, but it did because as we get older and appreciate other things in our lives like family, friendships, even doing nothing. Like I could love doing nothing, right? When you can carve out that nothingness, but you have to have that. Anyway, I think the point I'm making is, my story in television was amazing, and I had incredible opportunities to do things for National Geographic Channel and for E! And for Bravo, um, incredible. But then but then I think I quite figuratively and literally hit a wall, and it was like it was time. It was time to change.
Well, in some ways I think, it's like an all-consuming kind of, you were all consumed by what that was in your life. But you had many other things going on in your life. I mean, you had kids, you were married, you were, you know, building something with other people in it. It
Well,
wasn't
yeah,
just
but just funny story. It was my crazy TV career that allowed me to meet my husband. Fun fact, I was working on a series, National Geographic Channel, Worlds Apart. And the whole idea was bring an American family, like a typical American family, leave where you are to learn who you are to live with a typical native family, indigenous family. Anyway, amazing experience, life-changing for me, really. Like, I'll never let my water faucet run endlessly, but anyway, I was put on mandatory leave by my boss because I was so burnt out. He was pretty much like, "You're not good for you're useless right now, go take a vacation." And I went to Club Med for a week. I saw the lady with the hat, the all-inclusive, bought, like, 4 books. Yeah, exactly.
did the dance, had all the
And
things.
that's where I met my husband. I have to be grateful for, the way life was stacked for me because I'm pretty sure if I never took that vacation, I wouldn't have met Mark. My life wouldn't have unfolded the way it did. So, always keep an open mind.
Well, to me, that's kind of the interesting part about life is you go on the journey, and whether that, the journey zigs and zags, which I
Oh,
think it
yeah.
does for everybody. Yeah, what you can take away from those times,
Well,
right?
yes, and just circling back to, like, the different careers, I think what's really cool about TV production and media that served me well is the same facets of production and journalism really set me up for the rest of my life, right? If you look at the idea of pre-production, production, and post-production in any time you do a show, that's applicable to anything you do in life, right? Your pre-production, you plan, your production, you do it, and then post-production, how you follow through. And we learn how to communicate. We learn how to work on schedules. We learn how to budget. We learn how to deal with difficult people, shy people, under pressure. So this sort of first chapter that I had that gave me this incredible life experience. Like, I would have never told you that I could run a company. I didn't ever know that I had the chops for that. And I would have said, "Well, I don't have an MBA. I have no experience." But when you're so open to learning, and when you're so accustomed to just diving in deep and learning everything you can about a subject, Well, why is running a company any different?
Yeah, and I think the one, like, as the producer of something, you're in a role where not everything may unfold as you've planned it, no matter how you plan every single thing, right? And so it is about like adaptability and how you navigate the circumstances that kind of unfold in real time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in TV production, you plan everything you can. You control everything you can because all of those things that you can't control inevitably will happen.
But I also feel that running a business is like that. You know, maybe not everything will unfold, but a lot of things will unfold that you don't expect, and you have to learn how to navigate them as you go.
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, you have to
Yeah.
be calm, you have to be level-headed, you have to make swift, thoughtful, decisive decisions, and at the same time, if you made a bad decision, you have to recognize and own it so you can fix things. Everyone's makes mistakes. It's how you deal with a problem and how quickly you resolve it and you own it that separates you from anybody else, and that applies to anything in business. Yeah, and if you can't pivot and you can't be ready to go whoop, doo, 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 well, you shouldn't be an entrepreneur or business owner.
Yep. And so you meet your husband and you leave for a while you live the high flying, fast paced New York life, but eventually you move to Florida and,
Yeah.
with the kids, and you're still in TV at that time. How did you make the switch? What happened in your life that caused you to really think about becoming an entrepreneur?
Um, I always take a breath because I wonder, like, how much should I share? But I'll share. So I was, still full in it in Florida, executive producing an incredible series for Travel Channel, and it was amazing. But I would drop my kids off at preschool in the morning, and then I wouldn't see them until the next morning. And I think it was when my oldest son came up to me and said, "Lily, I mean, mommy," that I get like, I just had a moment really. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Um, and Mark was busy growing AK Building Services. And he looked at me, he's like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing here? Why are you working for other people? Why not build something for our family? And that really was the pivotal moment, and at that exact moment, I wasn't like, "What do you want me to, like, quit my job and, yeah, go from TV to janitorial?" And I'm not poo-pooing janitorial, but at that moment, it seemed like I couldn't reconcile.
Right.
Like, you build
And
a car
you
you
couldn't.
build a career for
Yes.
years and years to get to the
Yes.
place.
Yes, and none of what you built was over in janitorial, right? Like, the bridge to pull those 2 things together must have seemed very big to build.
I didn't see it, and then but he said to me, "Don't come over if you don't want it." He was amazing. I mean, Mark was amazing. He's just said, "Look, do what makes you happy, but we also have to look at our family." And I was fully on board with that. So I'll call that then the what entered into the transition phase of life because I wasn't quite ready to hang one up and go to the other. And during that time, I did a lot of like smaller freelance projects. I was even, like, selling jewelry for a girlfriend, I was running a charity, and again, Mark's like, "What are you doing? You're all over." So I dipped my toe in. I said, "I'll start with some marketing, what I know and what I'm comfortable with." And then it was a little more, and then it was about customer retention, and then I couldn't handle, like I was like, "Well," I hear some things operationally, and me being the type A that I am, I was like, "Well, when I lead a team, I do it this way." He's like, "Oh, so now you want in?" I basically said, "You give me an office, I'll show up." And he was like, "Nope, not doing it because no, you're not gonna show up." And I said, "You give me an office, I will show up." So gave me an office, and I showed up. And here I am, fast forward however many, you know, years later, living, breathing, loving my team, loving our customers, loving our industry,
Yeah, and at the helm of the company.
and at the helm of the company alongside Mark. But yes, and I found creativity in business. Let me say that again. I found creativity in business. I found the creative that like filled my soul in building a company and forming it, but the relationships that I had in television, I also have those relationships with like our frontline workers and my management team and customers and other industry professionals. Like all the things that I thought that I adored about journalism, which I still do, I totally have that fulfillment through a different lens, which is really kind of wild to me because I wouldn't have ever thunk it.
Right. Yes, isn't it amazing how you can't see it until you're sort of moving into it and then finally you look back? Often it's when we look back that we can see it.
Okay, so funny little anecdote. I was on a run with my running partner the other day. We stopped to use the restroom. She was waiting outside, and I live in Florida, so this is on A1A on the beach. And I run outside. I was like, "Ellen, you gotta come in. You gotta come in. You gotta show you something." She thought I was going to show her like a cute dog or like a celebrity, but there was a janitor with this really cool backpack vacuum, a cordless backpack. I was like, "Look at it. He's got the Pro Team. He's got the latest model." I was like, "So what do you think of it? It's lightweight, right? And you can cover more square footage." And we walked outside and Ellen goes, "Oh my, look at how far we've come." She's like, I would have never pegged you for getting that excited over a vacuum cleaner." And I was like, "Yep."
There we are.
But, it was
But there you
a
are,
golden
still like
moment.
going out and connecting with people and having that conversation. And like all those things are still the same.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Leadership, inspiration, company culture, values, customer service, deliverables, and the stories behind who people are and what they do and how our service changes lives and helps lives. It's truly rewarding.
Yes. And so what's happened in terms of your journey? So you got that office, you started showing up every day, and what happened to you and to the business?
Well, okay, well, I'll just say, and no disrespect to anybody else, but we have doubled the business. We have grown substantially, and we've I think we're one of the larger or largest, privately owned companies in Florida, and I'm very proud of that. We built an incredible company culture, um, and we're making a difference. But here's the big but. This was not an easy transition, and some days I still have imposter syndrome. Because you walk in and think, "Well, am I qualified? Am I able to do this?" Because there are people in my industry, they're second generation. They've been in this industry 40, 50 years. Like, they know the real, um, they know where the bodies are buried. I don't know. They can, like, clean a floor in their sleep and the wax and the coating. You know, I don't have that industry experience and I won't pretend to, but I know what I can do really well, and I know how to invest in the right people and experts who know the mechanics of our industry to teach me and guide me. Nobody's an expert in absolutely everything they do, and so I've gotten comfortable with that.
Right. Well, and it is also sort of an interesting like I think the sort of I don't know, old, I'll use the air quotes there, but old industries, right? Like this kind of supply business has been around for a really long time. Like you
Yeah.
said, there's second generation owners now. They're, maybe even thirds coming in. And it's just so interesting. Like we're talking about businesses that can be very profitable and very successful, but aren't the like sexy tech business or those kinds of things that lots of people talk about, but they're really fruitful businesses.
Oh, absolutely. Getting Yes, there's extremely profitable, healthy businesses that, those are the businesses you wanna be in. And I think it's much better to be in a healthy, sustainable, growing business that's something than something that might be cool on Instagram for a minute, because there's longevity in that, and building something. And, we employ a lot of people, and to know that we're creating stability for our teammates and for lives, that's really meaningful.
Making a difference in families' lives. Yeah, that
Oh,
is
yeah,
really
I mean,
meaningful.
we employ
Absolutely.
some big group families, like, it's really important. But I also wanna give some props, and also something that I recognize. Mark has a finance background, and so he's great with numbers. Like, he does a killer spreadsheet. I will never do a killer spreadsheet. And his father was in the industry, so Mark is second generation. And I think the really cool part of this story was husband and wife coming together to know our strengths and weaknesses, staying in our own lane, but to, like, really collaborate to build something that you don't see every day. And I recognize how strange it is and how absolutely lucky we are, and that we're still
Absolutely.
married.
Yeah, well, that too. You're still together in life and in business, which
Yes.
is really amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it can be a lot. What have you found, from those days of coming into this business, really feeling like an imposter? What have you done on the leadership side to keep growing yourself?
Well, so there's internal and external. So I'm part of a peer group with an industry organization, BSCAI. We meet with other building owners once a month. I've really take my role very seriously, and I speak at industry conferences. I just spoke in Baltimore. I led 2 different sessions and sat on a panel, women in the janitorial or building services industry. Um, I'm a leader in my community. I might sit on the boards of charities and organizations. And for our team, I'm always trying to set the good example. I always try to offer training and educational opportunities for everybody. Um, because for me, I have to keep learning. Like, if I'm not learning and growing, I'm dying. And I want everybody to, like, embrace that. We gotta be 1% better every day. I have a lending library in our office. Like, read a book, borrow it, take some time. If there's a class you wanna take, go ahead, we'll pay for it. Assuming it's not, like, in Australia, of course, but
Yeah, but you encourage people to embrace that value of learning, continuous learning.
Oh, yeah, I mean, absolutely, and to learn from each other. We have some people in our organization, everyone has different strengths, and to say, "Hey, Daniel, you are really good at handling this situation." Commanding the respect of your employees, and when there's a difficult situation, you seem to handle it with such calm and grace. So and so's been having a little trouble in this area. Could you guys pair up and maybe go to lunch on me? And could you help them out? So those are other leadership opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah, which is really important. And I think, it goes to that kind of company culture and how you build the culture that you want. And then as the company grows and gets bigger, how the culture passes to the people who work there and it lives and breathes.
And another, I think I'll call this a form of leadership, is um, really not shaming people from mistakes, but failures are great opportunities to learn from. Right? Failures are your biggest learning opportunities. And so when we have a situation that warrants a discussion, we'll all talk about it as a group. But it's not a negative, like you messed up, you made this mistake. It's like we've all been in this situation. Let's talk it through together. What would we have done differently and how will we handle this differently moving forward? And I think those are great teaching moments. If you shame people, if you shame people, then the lesson's lost.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, people don't want to make bad decisions for your business. They don't like the people who work for you. They want to show up and do a good job every day. There it's a really rare exception that they don't. And so how you encourage them to make decisions, even though they might not always be right, like really almost all the time they're going to do a decent job.
Yeah, well, I want everyone to know we have your back.
Yes,
Like, we
so
have your
important.
back and let's figure this out together. Like, call me anytime. Let's figure out this situation. Um, Another quote that I love is the comeback is always better than the setback.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
So you have to embrace those setbacks. And we all have them, and whether it's your personal life or your business, like everybody has them. You gotta thank somebody for it. Thank you for giving me that opportunity to be better.
Yeah, and you can figure out, is there something in your system that you're outgrowing a process? Is this the beginning of more breakdowns? And you get that opportunity when you kind of unfold it, open it up, and talk about it objectively to really think about if you need to make changes.
Right, or recognizing, is everyone in the right seat on the right bus,
I'm a big fan of that.
you know?
Yeah.
But these are all leadership, skills and traits that I would say, accumulated over the years through my personal experiences and through my, different
Yeah.
careers.
Yeah, and through also, I mean, reading of books and talking with other people who are leaders and how they're doing things. And I mean, it is a dialogue, isn't it?
Well, it has to be because if I sit in my office here and I don't talk to other people and learn, like, the world's gonna pass me by and I'm not growing with it and I'm not learning from it, and especially sharing within your industry groups, and I'm also part of other CEO groups where you really can sit and have thoughtful conversations in a safe space to help each other, talk through challenges. Like, I love that. I love that part of the business.
Yeah, interesting. And so it feels like you're very much and the call me, my door's open. People feel like you're approachable and there to really help them. And in terms of like a management style.
I hope so. I think so.
I know. We can never truly know, of course, but that's obviously what you're striving for.
1,000%. Yeah. No, we have an open door policy. And if you have an issue, come, you know, there's a chain of command, but everybody knows they can call me and
And you will
absolutely.
weigh in.
I
Yeah.
will weigh in. I encourage people to try and figure things out on their own, but if they can't, I'm here. And Mark is here too. Like, you should never not
No.
call.
So I'm just thinking about how you mentioned that the business has grown significantly since you came in and started working there. How does that change your day to day? What happens when, because one of the things sometimes when there's a lot of change or a lot of growth, we hold on too tight to some things that we need to let go of. Like how have you seen your role evolve as the business gets a lot bigger?
It's a great question, and something that I reflect on daily. Um, Working very hard to learn to delegate tasks that I shouldn't be doing. I've worked with coaches, um, who have really tried to explain how to delegate and how to empower people, and if somebody else could do the job that I'm doing, delegate that out. So that's an ongoing process, and I also have to give myself change the mindset from being task oriented to goal and strategy oriented. Meaning, every day, I come in, whatever, I make my little lists of stuff that has to get done. But really, if you spend your whole day in your to do list, I'm not furthering the growth of the company. So I have to really train myself to look at, okay, we're going to have a strategic meeting next week. And where do I want to be in 6 months? Where do we want to be in 12 months? What do we need to do to achieve those goals? And then break it down bite by bite. And that's been a big change in my role because I feel like I understand the business well enough now to be able to look at that 10,000-foot view to see how where the ship is moving.
And do you feel like you have more time to do that now? That you have more resources, more people at your kind of like working for you and with you?
It's funny, yes and no. Some days
Yeah,
I would say no. Some days I'm like, "Ah!" But I've learned how to protect that time. I protect that time because I know that if I'm not doing this, nobody else is.
right. Yeah, and it is that piece of like this, like that, that to-do list becomes the like you feel sort of driven by it and that it like it's so important to get that done. But if you don't honor that time you've carved out, then you're just sort of spiraling deeper and deeper, aren't you, into the, into the weeds of the company as opposed to that 10,000-foot view.
Right, and there's no question, we have a CFO, a controller, accounts payable, so we've developed positions, and as we grow, we develop and create more positions, and then that gets done. And that's kind of the cool part of a growing company is you make your strategic plan and then you make your people plan, right? And you say, okay, well, in 6 months, I would like to add this position. Let's see how that works. And then we can add more here, and that's really important to the structure and the growth of a company. It's like you build the foundation for a house and then you go up.
Yes, and I always think like I always sort of think of things like in the beginning, you pull out your napkin and you make some strategy notes and that's kind of like your first plan, and then you get to the point where yeah, you have a finance department and they're helping you map what salary changes would be and what roles you want to add. Like there's this progression from something that's very bare bones and totally appropriate for the first time you do it to a process that's now really robust and has lots of people contributing to it, and you've got lots of data to make your choices from and those kinds of things.
But it's also really important to look at, how are we handling customer retention? How are we handling sales? How are we handling new trends in the industry? How are we handling environmental factors? Like there was a terrible flu season this year. Right? Horrible. So how are we not only protecting our frontline associates from staying healthy, but then how are we informing our customers on what they need to be doing to stay ahead of this? Um, making sure we're green sealed and making sure everyone's abiding by the protocols you set. So there's a lot that goes into a business. So you have to sort of be a bit ADHD and type A, but to stay and constantly thinking like what am I missing? What do I need to be looking? What do I need to be paying attention to? And what are trends in real estate in Florida? What's happening with vacancies? Are people coming to work? Are they not? What do people want looking at the economy right now? People are tightening the economy. How do you create the value service that's so important for them to have?
Yep. I think it's so interesting just that evolution of strategy as the business grows and changes. And to some degree you need that evolution because the ship gets bigger and it's harder to turn on a dime, and all of the things that you can do when you're tiny, right? To make those adjustments. The adjustments you've got to have a farther viewpoint to, sort of try and be adjusting as you go.
A great
Yeah.
mentor said to me, "How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time." It's like baby steps when if you do anything too big or too fast, you risk some serious ramifications.
Yeah. And so now what's next for you in your journey?
Oh gosh. I'll tell you in 5 years.
Okay, it's a date. I'll meet you back here.
But you know what? We're having fun, and as Mark says, we have more fuel in the tank. So as long as we're feeling good, we're healthy, um, we will keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm so excited to see where your journey takes you. And I would love to be back here in 5 years and hearing all about where you've gone from here. So I hope that we can stay in touch and think about that. But thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
And by the way, your big, gorgeous goals, right? That's what we all have in life, big, gorgeous goals. So
100%. Yeah, and you've got to chase them because otherwise we are stuck in those to-do lists and we never get out of the weeds.
exactly.
Good. Thanks for joining me today, Shari.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please remember to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you won't miss any episodes. Figure Eight isn't just a podcast. It's a way of seeing the big, gorgeous goals of women entrepreneurs coming to life. If you're interested in learning more, you can find my book, Big Gorgeous Goals, on Amazon anywhere you might live. For more about my growth and leadership training programs, visit www.julieellis.ca to see how we might work together. Read my blog or sign up to get your free diagnostic. Are you ready for growth? Once again, that's www.julieellis.ca. When we work together, we all win. See you again soon for another episode of Figure Eight.